EA has released a feature list for NHL 17, and needless to say, there are some very intriguing topics of discussion on that list. Unfortunately, because it is just a feature list, we don't have too much detail, so you really can't talk about certain subjects for too long. But I will go over what I found intriguing about said feature list, and admittingly, even for someone as cynical as me, EA has done a wonderful job with just this list to get me excited for the upcoming trailer on the 22nd and for this summer as we continue to find out more information. Now we'll break this down in sections because that's kind of how the list ended up going. So as you see on this image here, with Shanghai, it mentions 3 things. It mentions draft champions, it mentions the World Cup of Hockey mode, and how Be a GM has evolved into franchise mode. Once again though, how can you really evolve into something that you were already in the past? Speaking though on the World Cup of Hockey, it's something that we already knew was going to be in the game, and my hope for this is that there's some GM mode integration, because otherwise, like I said on the Vision trailer breakdown, which if you didn't see that, maybe I put an annotation on the screen somewhere, who knows, but like I said in that trailer, if you don't have GM mode integration, this mode simply becomes the thing that you play once simply to get the achievements, or even if you don't care about achievements, you check it out once and you never touch it again, somewhat like the women integration in FIFA 16. Draft champions will obviously be EA's foray into the new draft mode. Now, to me, it seems more like it's going to be on the Madden side of things, outside of Ultimate Team. Admittingly, I'm not that familiar with the Madden version of things. With the FIFA FUT draft, it is an interesting concept. Obviously, there were a couple of things people would have liked to see implemented differently, but I am intrigued to see just how exactly they break down their draft mode. They're a year late to the party, but hopefully once it's finally here, it makes an impact. GM mode is once again franchise mode, and credit to EA Sports Vancouver for that pick. That is a lovely, lovely picture. But finally, we're getting a little bit more, at the very least, I'm going to say a little bit more because obviously I haven't had time to sink my teeth into the game mode. I don't have any more information than you guys do at this point. But clearly, it looks like things are going back to the way they were in previous years, being able to set ticket prices, relocation, the marketing, arena upgrades. I'm really interested to see how they've implemented all of this. It does sound very, very promising, especially with owner goals, especially if those owner goals are realistic when you start with the team. Basically what I'm saying is if you start with the Toronto Maple Leafs and your challenge is to make it to the conference finals in your first year, I'm calling BS, but benefit of the doubt, that hasn't happened yet. We'll wait and see. And the last thing I'm going to group in here with the game modes is the addition of the ECHL, something I have been clamoring for a very long time. Now, if you guys have watched my channel at all, particularly the GM modes, you know that I am obsessed, borderline OCD, if not full-blown OCD, in terms of having realistic rosters. And if you go and look at the most recent roster update in NHL 16, a vast majority of the players in the free agent list currently belong to ECHL teams. Now, I would like to think, considering you have the rosters and all that, I would like to think that it is also integrated into GM mode. If it isn't, that is a ridiculous oversight, and I'd like to hear a little bit of clarification from EA on that. Maybe that's something I will ask them through their Ask EA feature on their website. But at the very least, it'll be cool to have the, the jerseys and all that for EASHL or Ultimate Team. And as well, if the Portland Pirates become an ECHL team in the future, I can use their jerseys for my club. Moving on to the gameplay section of things, and of course, as you can see, own every zone with more end-to-end control with authentic goalies featuring positional awareness and reactionary save intelligence. Then, of course, they hyped the net battles and some new goal celebrations. So starting off with the goalies. It's been amazing over the last year or so now to watch the amount of effort they have put in to rebuilding and redefining the goalie position, particularly for human players. And now this year adding the reverse VH apparently into the game, which is absolutely huge. Real life stances. It's going to be interesting. And now I'm not trying to fall for the same trap. I am trying to be optimistic. Obviously, with any game in the AI, there's going to be something. It's going to be cross creases, it's going to be wrist shots, the pullback wristers. It's going to be something, and people are going to find a way to beat the goaltenders, because you have to find a fine balance between goalies being virtually unstoppable and every game ending 1-0, as it was in a EA Access or EA Season Ticket back on the Xbox 360 days, and actually having goalies be somewhat beatable. So it's a fine line, but I am very intrigued to see these changes in action once we can finally get our hands on this game. Much like the goalie improvements, we also saw in the Vision trailer breakdown that net front battles have been re-added into the game. Simply put, I can only hope that they are more effective than they were when it was previously in the game. I hope they get it right this time, and it truly becomes an effective tool for defensemen in this game, and also offensively. Now, that's something I'll be talking about in a future Film Room episode, but screening the goalie, or should I say screening the goalie properly, can be a massive tool for you to use in NHL 16 already. Again, I'll try to cover that in the future. But again, as far as battling in front of the net, position battles, if it's implemented correctly, it could be a game changer. Celebrations. Now, I'm not going to go on about celebrations, but it is cool for them to continue adding more goal celebrations. Obviously, it'll never get to the point of FIFA, where you have dozens upon dozens of options, but it at least adds a little bit more to the game. Improved tape-to-tape passing, puck pickups, and pivots. Now, this is obviously huge. Promising changes to the passing, promising changes to puck pickups, which, my God, is that needed. And pivots, which of course goes along with the fact that they have improved the skating, which is absolutely gigantic. And perhaps the biggest one of all for me, enhanced hitting mechanics. Now again, if properly implemented, can be an absolute godsend, and NHL 17 could end up being one of my favorite games in the series of all time. But as I said, without any gameplay, and don't worry, we'll of course be getting gameplay over the next few months. We're 3 months out from the game being released, just getting now into the cycle of the end of NHL 16 and the hype for NHL 17. But that paragraph right there is one of the biggest, if not the biggest thing I am looking forward to from NHL 17. I'll mention this as well because apparently they have altered the way that you can change up the sliders, which for those on the Operation Sports forum, where there's a subsection dedicated to sliders in the game, that is going to be huge for some of the guys over there, and I can't wait to see what some of the guys over there can do to make this game as realistic as possible. Up next, we have some EASHL changes as well as some Ultimate Team changes. First up, we have a look at the badge system. Now, it is no secret the badge system in NHL 16 was completely tacked on at the last minute to make the mode not seem as empty, obviously due to the lack of player progression, boost packs, and all that shit. They are sticking with player builds, which, let me know what you think about that. I personally love the player builds this year, although I do think there could be some tweaking to make sure that they better suit the actual play style, because needless to say, I've been able to hit better as a playmaker than a power forward this year, so there's something wrong with that. But not only is the badge system still in, they've actually made it mean something by adding customizable items for your player, team, and even arenas, so it'll be interesting to see how in-depth that is. We also have the arena progression. Now, I won't talk about customization just yet, but the progression, I think this is fantastic. If you've ever played FIFA Pro Clubs, which granted is, at this point, easy to say, EASHL is way more in-depth than Pro Clubs. But one thing Pro Clubs did right on FIFA is you start off with very low-level arenas and you have to work your way up to the bigger arenas. So the fact that you need to accomplish things as a team, get to certain prestige levels to unlock certain scoreboards and other parts of the arena is a cool feature. And that brings me to this picture, which has pissed off a lot of people because, yes, in the past, when you were able to customize your team jersey, you would obviously have people running around in jerseys that looked like you gutted a piñata and just sprayed the innards all over the jersey. And the concern, of course, is whether or not arenas are now going to look like that as well, on top of the jerseys being like that. And honestly, that could be the case, but it's people's right to do that, and I do have to admit, customizing the ice surface, the goal light, the scoreboard, goal songs and effects, all of it sounds great, but EA, I beg you for this, my God, I won't regret my purchase one bit if you give me the option to go with the Vancouver lights that they put in between the panes of glass as a goal celebration. You give me that, you have my money. Well, you're going to have my money anyway because it's an addiction, but you get my point. And of course, the last thing is now jersey customization, not only for EASHL, but for the newly crowned franchise mode as well. It'll be interesting to see what they mean by patterns, whether or not that's just specific types, or if you could actually run around looking like you just came from a Scottish bagpipe line. Once again, all of this stuff sounds very promising, but it all comes down to its implementation and execution, and for that we have to wait. One more thing before we get into Ultimate Team, they also hyped up career moments. So say you score your first goal, you'll have a nice little celebration intro. Hopefully, if you're putting in certain animations like that, I wonder if we're getting a new Stanley Cup celebration. I highly doubt it, but I'd be very intrigued to know, since they put in the effort to change up some of the celebrations that we get already. Ultimate Team, and this is the big one that I really can't have an opinion on because what do you say? Because what do you say? Without seeing it in action, I have no idea whether this is good or not. Dynamic sets in Ultimate Team. Collecting sets to unlock rewards, including thematic sets to constantly build and improve your team. With dynamic sets, if it happens in hockey, it happens in NHL 17. Very, very intrigued to see how that pans out. Whether that means having certain people on the team of the week, or having randomly thrown out their guys. If they're like, okay, this week's dynamic set, have a Taves, Crosby, and a Michael Ryder legend card, which that should happen, by the way, on your top line. I don't know what that's going to be. It does sound promising and sounds like a nice change, but I will hold off on my judgment for now. Same thing as well for Synergy, a new team building system to challenge the way you build and play as your ultimate team. Pair player strengths together to create synergy and grant perks across your lineup. Now, I'll say this. If it's more along the lines of like NHL 2004, where a playmaker, sniper, power forward grants you just a little bit of a boost or a little bit of extra chemistry, that's pretty cool. As far as the perks go, you can see them on the bottom there, and it's interesting. Again, it's interesting. I don't know how to feel about it, but I'm excited to see how it pans out, and I can't wait for more information on this. But I will say this. What the hell is up with the card design in Ultimate Team this year? That is something. And the last two things I'll get into really quickly, I'm not going to touch up on this for too long. Improvements to the visual on-ice trainer and coaching feedback. As far as the on-ice trainer goes, for someone like me, not too useful, but it is certainly useful for newer or younger players. So just making general improvements to that, good call. Glad to see EA is doing it because it's certainly a good tool to have in their game. And the coaching feedback, simply put, I'll say this. You can't get much worse. No offense, EA. But as long as your coach isn't recommending face-off shots and spinoramas and shit and just stupid stuff that no, you shouldn't be doing. And no, hopefully a 12-year-old out there isn't like, oh, I gotta shoot off the face-off every time. Just as long as that doesn't happen, it's an improvement. But guys, that is pretty much it for now. I will say this, if you want to take a look at the feature list yourself, a link is down in the description. You can also find a link down there for the Ask EA feature that they have on their website. They've already answered a few questions, some interesting answers. Unfortunately, they have killed my hope of a defensive skill stick, but maybe someday. And make sure you let me know down below as well what you think of this feature list. Has it gotten you just a little bit more excited for NHL 17? I know it certainly has for me, and I cannot wait for that trailer on June 22nd. Every year, I don't know how they do it, but they always manage to set their hooks in. Count me as excited, and I can't wait to see what this game pans out to be. It's going to be a long 3 months, But yes, in June, very early June, I'm already excited for NHL 17. I thank you guys for watching. As always, make sure you hit that like button if you have enjoyed, and of course subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time.